Good morning, good afternoon, good evening to all of you wherever you may be on planet Earth on Earth Day 2020. We are delighted to have you with us. To our friends and colleagues around the world, we bring you our best wishes from the hosts of today's broadcast, the International Land Conservation Network, the European Land Conservation Network, and Fundació Catalunya La Pedrera. Let me introduce myself. My name is Jim Levitt, and I'm the director of the ILCN and program director for land and water conservation at the Lincoln Institute of Land Policy based in Cambridge, Massachusetts. It is with great pride in the resiliency of our community of practice that we bring you live from the Boston area in Massachusetts, from Barcelona, Spain, from Berlin, Germany, from the west of England, from Berkeley, California, with partners who directly contributed to this effort in Mozambique, Brazil, Kenya, Australia, China, Chile, indeed more than 45 nations with registrants for this webinar. We bring you the ILCN ELCN Global Earth Day Plenary webinar. And let me say to you right now that I and Tilman Disselhoff will make some preliminary comments. Please hang in there through those comments. We have a very special treat for you just after that we're all anticipating. And today our featured guests will include Marta Subira, who we're honored to have. She is the Catalonian Secretary of the Environment and Sustainability. Wade Crowfoot, her counterpart in the state of California in the United States. Wade is the California Secretary of Natural Resources. A global ensemble from the Berklee College of Music. As I noted just now, a special greeting from a surprise guest, and many more deeply committed land conservationists from around the world. We're doing something today that would have been not imaginable 50 years ago on the first Earth Day, April 22nd, 1970. We're holding a live global conversation from our homes over the internet. As my friend Angelo Salsi from the European Commission likes to remind me, we are in this for the long haul. We are playing the long game. And our intent is to hand to our children's children and many generations beyond a green, vibrant earth full of life and rich with biodiversity. Now, please let me hand the virtual microphone over to my friend and my colleague, Tilman Disselhoff, who is the project coordinator of the European Land Conservation Network. He is now sitting in his family cottage in Germany. Tilman has been with the ILCN even before it was created. As a German graduate student studying land trusts in the United States, Tilman really sparked the conversation that led to our decision to create this ever-growing organization. Tilman, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Jim, for your kind introduction. Dear friends and colleagues, I'm honored to welcome you on behalf of the European Land Conservation Network to this virtual plenary celebrating the 50th anniversary of Earth Day. I'm also a little bit excited because this is the first time that I speak to so many people around the world digitally, and I can't see you, but you can see me. So that adds to my excitement, and forgive me for that. My name is Tilman Disselhoff. I'm the coordinator of the European Land Conservation Network, ELCN. The ELCN is a very young initiative, just a few years old now. It's being led by NABU, the German chapter of BirdLife International, who's my employer, and other conservation NGOs. We are setting up this network with the generous support of a LIFE project grant from the European Commission. So thanks to our sponsors at this point. Today we're celebrating the 50th anniversary of Earth Day. And we are paying tribute to the importance of environmental protection and the conservation of nature around the world. but we are also using this to remind ourselves of the force of collective action for a greater good. And it's an incredible time to celebrate half a century of global environmentalism. The COVID-19 pandemic is ongoing in all of countries around the world. And if there's one thing that this pandemic has shown us, it's that we are all in this together. Nature knows no boundaries, and we all live on the same beautiful but very fragile planet. But the pandemic has also shown us that the individual behavior of each and one of us determines whether we will be successful in tackling common challenges. And I believe that for conservationists and environmentalists, this is not a very new realization. We are very familiar with the concept to think globally and act locally. And we've been guided by this idea for at least 50 years. So while the pandemic has caused incredible human suffering, and it will continue to do so, it also shows us how fast we are ready to adapt our behavior when we understand that we need to do so for the greater good. And I have been impressed with the speed with which people around the world have accepted fundamental changes to their lives. And this fact makes me very optimistic that we will likewise be able to tackle our great twin crisis of climate breakdown and biodiversity loss once we acknowledge how urgent they are. So in a way, this virtual plenary or online meeting today is exactly what needs to be done. With this event and others like it that will follow, we are continuing our endeavor to exchange information, to learn from one another, and to come together as a community of conservation practitioners. And we're doing it in a way that is adequate and reflective of the current challenging situation. I'm very much looking forward to our ILCN ELCN Global Congress in 2021. And I hope that we will be able to meet in person next year. In the meantime, I'm very happy for the opportunity of connecting and networking with all of you online. And with that, I would like to hand over to Annette Paige, the director of the Adept Foundation, which is based in Romania and the UK. And he has a very special message for us from a longtime supporter of land conservation around the globe. Thanks to all of you for participating in today's event, and all the best from me.
Hello, everyone. I have the great pleasure to read a message which His Royal Highness the Prince of Wales has kindly written to mark the opening of this Congress. Ladies and gentlemen, I'm very glad to be able to contribute this message of encouragement and support to the delegates of the Global Congress of the International Land Conservation Network and the European Land Conservation Network. Although you may be separated physically due to coronavirus, you are nonetheless all present and united in a virtual internet gathering, not to give up, but to find another way. This is human endeavor at its best. For more than 4 decades, the conservation of nature and other matters relating to our collective relationship with the earth have been at the top of my concerns. As we continue to face the growing challenges of climate change and biodiversity loss, there is an increasingly urgent need for voluntary private and civil society conservation action that works across boundaries to protect the various physical resources and living things upon which we all depend and which, in their own right, are unique. I have long admired the remarkable dedication and innovation of the individuals, families, communities, and private and civil society organizations across the globe who play a vital role in protecting land and biodiversity for present and future generations. No single sector of society, be it public, private, or NGO, can face alone the conservation challenges all of us face in the 21st century. As land users, owners, or guardians, your work to protect and steward land is critical to maintaining and enhancing biodiversity and increasing the resilience of our planet. In order to achieve our shared goals, it is one of it is of the greatest importance to learn from the experiences of those who are advancing and accelerating the pace and quality of public, private, and civic land conservation around the world. I'm delighted that this virtual Congress and its series of webinars will connect private and civil society, land conservation practitioners, policymakers, and experts from 6 continents to exchange experience and best practice on key topics related to enabling and financing conservation, restoring large landscapes, stewarding and managing land and water resources, and building and strengthening the capacity of organizations, large and small. I warmly congratulate the International Land Conservation Network and the European Land Conservation Network for bringing together this extraordinary group of individuals and organizations who are bridging sectors, disciplines, and jurisdictions, and who are united in their commitment to conservation. I can only wish you an inspiring and productive time together and cheer you on as you accomplish great things in your many and diverse efforts throughout the world. Charles.
Thank you so much, Nat and Anton Gazenbeek, for helping us to arrange that incredible message. We are deeply, deeply appreciative, and we've communicated that to the Prince's office, and as Angelo Salsi said in an email this morning, he and all of us are kind of speechless. At this point, therefore, let's turn to a piece of music, which several of you know from our first Global Congress in Berlin in 2015. It's back by popular demand. Please enjoy this piece featuring Angelina Mabuto, a Mozambican graduate of Berklee College of Music, and Roger Brown, president of the Berklee College of Music. It's called Siku ni Siku, or Every Day, and it includes ensemble members and contributed photographs from around the globe.
I greet my neighbors. I feel the wind blowing every day. I quench my thirst. I feel the power of my body. I embrace the universe every day, every day, every day, every day, every day, every day. I see creation, the miracles above. I imagine the reach of time. I see the light of distant stars. Every day, every day, every day, every day, every day, every day. Siku, imbelela, siku ni siku, siku ni siku, siku ni siku, imbelela. The creation, miracles abound. I imagine the reach of time. I see the light of distant stars. Every
Thank you. Thank you, Angie. Thank you, Roger. Thank you, everybody who performed on that tape and all of the musicians at Berkeley who are doing such a great job to bring social causes into their music. And now let us hear from Miguel Rafa, who has been an incredibly generous host to us for more than a year, helping to plan the conference that might have taken place today in Barcelona, but now has been postponed until next year. Miguel is the Executive Director or Director de Territori y Medi Ambient, which literally translates to Director for the Territory and the Environment of the Fundació Catalunya La Pedrera. Miguel, please take it away.
Thank you, Jim. Thank you, Jim. Dear colleagues and friends from all over the world, during the last 25 years, in this part of the world, Catalonia, we have been working to develop a lot of initiatives to protect, to restore, and to take care of the natural lands. And particularly, this has been possible from the civil society and many environmental organizations. My foundation, Catalunya La Pedrera, is a private foundation, and we were expecting you here in Barcelona today and to host you during the Congress in our beautiful places. The first is the building of La Pedrera, is our flagship center in central Barcelona. Is a World Heritage Site built by Gaudí, the architect Gaudí, and is a wonderful place to start any gathering or any conference in Barcelona. The next place is the venue of the Congress. It's built around 11th century monastery. Is Mont Saint Benet. This is the name of the place, and this is where we hope that next year we will join together for the Congress. And the third is the field trip, the excursion. And obviously, this is something interesting for everybody. And in this particular place, the mountains around Barcelona, Montserrat is a very famous and sacred place. We are building a green infrastructure to help create a better resilience against wildfires, using especially the cattle and domestic animals. Okay, during this time, we have created here a network of privately protected areas, which is a pioneering example of this kind of work in Southern Europe. We have a property of 27 sites, which are visited by about 400,000 people every year. And we hope that they will continue visiting after the lockdown and the confination that we are now. We also have helped create in 2003 a network, a Catalonian network of land stewardship, which now is called Network of Nature Conservation, ILCN, who are also co-organizers of the Congress. And currently we have 143 members from civic organizations, local governments, research centers, and altogether we have about 700 voluntary agreements, which covers a total of about 400,000 hectares, which is quite a lot of ground. The support of collaboration of our regional government of Catalonia is good. It has been good and fruitful, even in these difficult times. And every time is the same. I mean, this is possible only if there is people like the next speaker, Marta Subirà, the Secretary of Environment, who are people who truly believes in our work and gives us the support necessary. So please be welcome. We see you next year. And now I leave you with Marta Subirà. Thank you very much to everybody.
Thank you, Miquel. Thank you very much. Ladies and gentlemen, colleagues, good morning or good afternoon, depending on what part of the globe you are connecting from. Happy Earth Day. I am Marta Subirà, the Secretary of Environment and Sustainability of the Government of Catalonia. And on behalf of the Government of Catalonia and on my own behalf, I would like to extend my best wishes to all of you and my sympathy for anyone who has suffered a loss in these difficult times. I hope you and your families are staying healthy and coping well with our evolving circumstances. These are, as I said, difficult times for all of us, wherever we are today. However, there is always room for hope. In fact, I am fortunate enough, I am here after having the coronavirus 1 month ago, and I am happy to say that I am completely recovered and that my family is well too. I would like to thank the ILCN and the ELCN for choosing Catalonia to host the 2020 Global Congress that has unfortunately been postponed. However, building on the interest and excitement in this gathering and finding an opportunity in every crisis, the ILCN is holding a series of webinars, and the Government of Catalonia is very pleased to be taking part in such an enriching and inspiring sessions. Thank you also for inviting me to address you today. Thank you, James and Tillman, for your opening remarks. And thank you, Miquel, for walking us through the strong and consolidated conservation movement we have in Catalonia. I'm also very honored to share today's webinar with Wade Crowfoot and the people from the Secretary for Natural Resources of California. Catalonia and California share many things. Besides a progressive political agenda, we share a Mediterranean climate, and we have the same problems and challenges when it comes to the fight against forest fires, water management and droughts, or climate change adaptation. We are both members of the Under 2 Coalition, a global community of state and regional governments committed to ambitious climate action in line with the Paris Agreement, and we support and encourage economic and trade cooperation in the areas of water resources management, environmental protection, and climate change. I'm really looking forward to welcoming you all in Catalonia next year. Besides having an amazing Congress, I'm sure you will have the chance to enjoy our architecture, culture, history, and traditions. I cannot see my slide here. Well, this one, excellent. So this image that you can see here is one of our most precious traditions as Castellers, the human towers, declared by UNESCO one of the masterpieces of the oral and intangible heritage of humanity, a tradition that shows the essence of the Catalan people, that work together for a common purpose when it's worth it, however difficult, challenging, or impossible it might seem. We have many examples of that these days more than ever. Catalonia is a rather small jurisdiction, 32,000 square kilometers, with more than 7.5 million inhabitants. It is part of the Mediterranean biodiversity hotspot, encompassing 650 natural and semi-natural habitats with a high degree of endemicity, covering more than 65% of the territory, and it is home to more than 33,000 species. Yet it is very vulnerable because of different pressures. Its population is mostly concentrated in the coastal areas. It has intense agricultural, livestock, and industrial sectors. And in addition, it receives more than 20 million tourists a year. Furthermore, it has a high level of dispersed urban development and a dense network of road infrastructures. We are all aware that the world is currently facing challenges of a great magnitude. The 2030 Agenda for Sustainable Development lays down in a pristine way which are these challenges that range from ending hunger and ensuring quality education, health, and welfare to ensuring free and democratic institutions or civil rights. But among the challenges raised by the 2030 Agenda, two stand out above the rest due to their planetary scope and their global impact on the future of the planet. Two challenges that are extremely critical and urgent: climate change, goal number 13, and the loss of biodiversity, goal number 14, life below water, and goal number 15, life on land. And now we need to add very, very urgently also goal number 3, good health. The truth is, we've been hearing about this for years. Scientists have been warning us, and it has become finally obvious that we are in an emergency situation, a climate emergency and an emergency generated by the loss of biodiversity. And now, on top of a global health emergency that, in my opinion, have connections with the other two. A global crisis with unprecedented consequences for the immediate future. The first step towards finding solutions is to understand and accept this reality, and also to hold seminars, webinars, and congresses such as this one, because they can definitely contribute to the solutions. As I said, the emergency is global because the threats over the planet are all connected. Regarding biodiversity, we know that global warming is one of the greatest causes of the extinction of species and of the alteration of their habitats. The government of Catalonia, following the example of other governments and the call from social movements, formally declared in May 2019 a climate and environmental emergency. But this was not a merely formal declaration. In fact, back in 2017, the Parliament of Catalonia passed with a broad consensus a very innovative and quite unique climate change law. This has been a turning point and an ambitious response to the climate change challenge, setting carbon neutrality and a totally renewable electricity production model by 2050. Solving global problems requires everyone's implication. But at the same time, we see that the need for powerful leadership has never been so imperative, and consequently, we must act with commitment and determination. We are all summoned here: scientists, entrepreneurs, politicians, the young, the elderly, environmental entities, and organizations of all kinds. More than ever, we now need strong leaderships in each and every field. We Catalans are lucky to be heirs to a long tradition of what we can call heroes of the future. People who throughout history have carried out explorations beyond our frontiers or conventionalisms and have innovated, contributing to finding solutions to global challenges. Like Narcís Monturiol, who among many other achievements laid the foundations of underwater navigation. Monturiol was a technologist, an innovator and an inventor, a man politically committed with a conviction that great discoveries would bring about not only scientific and industrial revolutions, but social and political revolutions too. Or Antoni Gaudí, the architect, who needs no introduction. Miquel talked about him. A genius, the creator of a unique, personal, and unparalleled language. Gaudí said at one time, the great book, the book that is always open and we should make the effort to read, is the book of nature, a statement that today is more relevant than ever. Another distinguished hero is Ramon Margolis, the centenary of whose birth we celebrate this year. He was a biologist who excelled in his work in the fields of limnology, oceanography, and ecology. In fact, he is considered to be one of the fathers of modern ecology. Or a woman, the oceanographer, biologist, and writer, Josefina Castellví, who is now 84 years old. She was the first woman from Spain to take part in an international Antarctic expedition. At Livingston Island in Antarctica, you will find the Castellví Peak, named in her honor. And there are heroes in politics too, because politics is a powerful tool. I am deeply convinced of the importance of politics for doing things, of it transforming power to fashion a better world. But it's not easy. Miquel talked about this also. You need tools and budget, something we do not always have. We in Catalonia have witnessed, though, the example of visionary politicians who laid down the foundations of a modern, prosperous, social, and fair Catalonia, establishing public library networks, networks of innovative schools, or the basis of environmental policies. All these people, these heroes, come to show that whether it's individually or collectively, we all can do things in order to improve our environment. After 40 years of a dictatorship in Spain, when fundamental rights and freedoms were suspended, democracy devolved powers to subnational governments. And since then, important progress has been made in the field of nature conservation. In addition to enacting and implementing a specific legislation on issues such as the Plan of Areas of Natural Interest that represents more than the 30% of the territory, the establishment of 14 natural parks and 1 national park, the catalogue of endangered flora, the Innovative Animal Protection Act, and so on, the government has achieved other significant milestones like the restoration of the great natural spaces and the recovery and improvement on the ecological status of river basins in the framework of the Green Infrastructure Program, or the generation of a very remarkable volume of information by the Biodiversity Data Bank. Extinct or endangered species have also been recovered, such as the Corsican gull, the bearded vulture, the small kestrel, the otter, the roe deer, and the brown bear. And it is worth mentioning that the improvement of the quality of the environment has enabled the spontaneous reintroduction of the wolf. Finally, one of the main achievements of the government was the approval last year of the Catalan Natural Heritage and Biodiversity Strategy 2030, after a very profitable and transversal participation process. The strategy reinforces private conservancy initiatives, co-management and land stewardship, and foresees to boost public and private collaboration in the field of biodiversity and protected areas management. Because there is no reason why future heroes should only be individuals. Collectives can also be heroic, like the Catalan Network for the Preservation of Nature that Miquel was telling us about. This network groups 150 entities and individuals working to foster land stewardship as a strategy to preserve natural resources and values. Land stewardship is considered in Catalonia as an innovative strategy for the conservation of the land in both public and private areas. Throughout voluntary agreements, land stewardship organizations advise owners and managers on how to contribute to the conservation values of the land they take care of. The Land Stewardship Action Plan is a collaboration agreement promoted by the Ministry of Territory and Sustainability of the Government of Catalonia with the support of the Catalan Network for the Preservation of Nature. We list the actions that both organizations will undertake in order to promote land stewardship in Catalonia. The creation of a program to develop tax and financial measures, the establishment of financial aid for stewardship organizations, and the participation in European projects are just some examples of the joint actions foreseen in the plan. According to the 2019 Land Stewardship Inventory, we have 700 initiatives in land conservation that count for the 1.2% of the territory of Catalonia. Since 2009, the government has launched 3 call for applications for grants, and we have been able to support 31 new programs of land stewardship that have allowed, in turn, to increase the number of agreements. We will be launching a new call for the 2020-2022 period in the next weeks. The Catalan government believes that nature has an intrinsic value in itself, as it is life and enables life on Earth. But it can also drive local development and economic progress. Enhancing the integration of nature conservation objectives in sectorial policies reduces pressure on biodiversity, provides coherence to government actions, and improves people's quality of life. But the challenges we are facing are enormous, because despite all the progress detailed earlier, current indicators and trends keep revealing the loss of biodiversity in Catalonia and globally, and the need to guarantee better and further the provision of ecosystemic services. Over the last month of lockdown, we have seen images of crystal clear waters in the Venice canals, swans in Milan, deer in cities and on beaches, dolphins near our coasts and marines, and even wild boars in downtown Barcelona. The truth is that when people reduce the pressure on nature, as we can see happening now, nature responds positively. The natural world is hugely resilient and can restore itself, giving us hope. But we are part of nature. We depend on it and everything it provides. This unfortunate moment should give us pause for reflection and inspire us to take action as proposed by the Global Assessment Report on Biodiversity and Ecosystem Services launched in 2019. We are aware that facing these problems is not an easy task, but we are determined to put in place the necessary means to make it possible. I am thrilled at the prospect over the following weeks of continuing to learn and share ideas via the webinars. And I would like to repeat that we are looking forward to welcoming you all to Catalonia next year. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Marta. That was an eloquent and beautiful speech. It is a great example of resilience at the subnational level that we're seeing all over the world, as well as at the local level, at the national level, even at the international level. So we are in your debt. Thank you so much. We're now going to pivot to California. Before we do, let me remind you that after we hear from two Californians, we're going to open up a question and answer session. And the way that you get in the line for that is to click on the Q&A icon that's at the bottom of your screen right now and write a question in there. I will review those questions and then ask them to our panelists. So let me introduce our next panelist who will be sitting in on the question and answer session, and also who will be introducing her colleague in California, Wade Crowfoot. Our next guest is named Sharon Farrell. She is a vice president of the Golden Gate National Parks Conservancy and a treasured colleague in the United States. She is a tremendous innovator in the field of stewardship and is partly responsible for the emerging Cutting the Green Tape initiative in the state of California that I expect will become a national and perhaps an international model. So with that, Sharon, welcome to our webinar.
Good morning, afternoon, and evening. I'm deeply honored to join you in celebration of the 50th anniversary of Earth Day. As Jim said, my name is Sharon Farrell, and I work with the Golden Gate National Parks Conservancy, a nonprofit support partner to the National Park Service in the San Francisco Bay Area. I also wear a different hat. I am the coordinator for the Landscape Stewardship Network in California, which connects a diverse range of cross-boundary partnerships throughout approximately 40% of our state. The California Landscape Stewardship Network envisions a California where everyone sees and embraces their role in caring for and sustaining the diverse and biologically rich landscapes that are vital to our collective well-being, and where we think, we act, and we plan beyond our individual boundaries to work at a pace and scale that meets and exceeds our most pressing challenges. And as many of the speakers before me have said, today we face new challenges, challenges at a global scale, challenges that exemplify the interconnection between human and environmental health. Knowing that, we could easily stick our head in the sand, but we don't, and we won't, because of the legacy we want to leave for future generations. Just as those leaders half a century ago provided unity to the grassroots environmental movement, so must we. We believe, and especially myself more than ever, that those of us working within the environmental movement need to bring hope. We need to bring relevancy and broader social connection to our work in the next 50 years. Through connecting with other movements, we can amplify our impact. And as an internal optimist, I believe that finding pathways to connect our broader communities to environmental stewardship inspires a strong sense of place and builds deep and rich connections. Stewardship is rooted in the recognition and appreciation of the efforts of those that came before us, our shared histories and our current connections to each other, and our responsibility to those who will follow in our footsteps. Stewardship is the legacy we can leave behind. I wanted to share a short excerpt from a poem by the 13th century Persian poet Rumi. Welcome difficulty. Learn the alchemy that true human beings know. The moment you accept what troubles you have been given, the door opens. To me, Despite the national and global environmental challenges we face, there are many doors opening in California, creating a confluence of change. Critical to this is having strong and visionary political leadership, especially for the support of our natural and physical resources. With that, I'm proud to introduce Secretary Wade Crowfoot, who leads California's Natural Resources Agency. Secretary Crowfoot has been a long-time environmental leader in protecting and enhancing California's diverse land and water resources, and is known for his passion, his tireless energy, his innovation, and his collaborative approach. His depth of experience working in government and for conservation organizations makes him uniquely qualified to innovate solutions for California's growing set of natural resources challenge, which, like many of you who work in Mediterranean climates, include changed fire regimes, drought, sea level rise, and the loss of our natural heritage. I'd like to welcome Wade.
Well, thanks so much, Sharon. I really appreciate the opportunity to be with you by this video message. Again, my name is Wade Crowfoot, and I serve as our California Natural Resources Secretary. I am coming to you from my backyard in Sacramento, California, a true sign of the times. I wish we could all be together, but I am thankful of the International Land Conservation Network and the European Land Conservation Network for bringing us all together across 6 continents to really share our work with each other and talk about how to build this international movement for land conservation. So I'll share just a few minutes of thoughts from our state of California. First and foremost, I hope everyone is staying healthy and safe. This is a truly extraordinary time. And I think while we protect ourselves and do our best to limit the spread of the virus in California and of course throughout the world, we're mindful that the challenges we work on a daily basis haven't gone away, and we're all finding ways to continue to work and advance our progress on land conservation. A special thanks and greeting to Secretary Marta Subira, who of course leads sustainability and environment for the government of Catalonia. Catalonia and California share so much in common, starting with our Mediterranean climate, and I would argue our sort of visionary progressive public policy. So it's great to be with you, and I think we all wish we could be there in Barcelona in person, but I'm told that will take place next year in 2021. Happy 50th anniversary of Earth Day. This is a tremendous milestone. I think that the original organizers of Earth Day may have been surprised to know that a half century later, we're celebrating this milestone and use April 22nd every year to remind ourselves and sort of re-energize our efforts to protect nature and to protect the planet. In California, we are proud of a great many things that have happened over the last half century. Most recently, we've been able to reduce our greenhouse gas emissions while growing our economy. We're fortunate to call ourselves the 5th largest economy of the world. And while our economy is growing, our emissions are reducing. So we like to say we are decoupling our economic growth from our greenhouse gas pollution. And that includes that today in California, over 50% of the electrons generated in our energy system are generated from carbon-free energy sources. Likewise, the average Californian uses about half the energy of the average American as a result of very strong energy efficiency policies we have in our buildings and our appliances. So while we're really proud of a lot that we've done on the energy and the pollution reduction side, we are also proud of the progress that we've made as it relates to protecting nature. We have incredible federal parks and state parks from Yosemite to our coasts and oceans. And it's remarkable, and we're so thankful that we can share those with the world. We have large portions of our state that are protected. Sharon helps to lead the Golden Gate National Recreation Area effort, which creates open space from Santa Cruz, south of the San Francisco Bay Area, up north to Sonoma County. We are also in California very proud of efforts in recent decades to protect our nature, both our land and our waterways, and of course our fish and wildlife as well. We are very fortunate to have world-renowned parks, from Yosemite National Parks to some of our state parks that take almost 30% of our state's coastline. Likewise, we have large portions of our state that are protected and open for public use, including our famed Golden Gate National Recreation Area that Sharon helps to lead and to steward around the San Francisco Bay Area, as well as parts of Southern California adjacent to Los Angeles that are very large areas of open space. We're proud to have strong environmental laws in California, particularly those that protect species on the brink of extinction. While our national government or federal government has an Endangered Species Act, we also have a state Endangered Species Act. Overall, California's landform is about 100 million acres. That would equate to about 40 million hectares if you use that unit of measurement. About 22% of that landmass is protected. And so we are very proud of that land protection. But let me talk about some of where we actually want to improve our efforts, because I think many of us coming from around the world have things that we can be proud of, but we're all working to actually improve land conservation. First, I'll say our lands are very segmented, or I would even argue at times balkanized. We have public protected lands in our federal government, our state government, our local government. We have institutionally protected lands like in our University of California system, Stanford University. And we have a strong land trust movement where private owners are stewarding their land, as well as some of our not-for-profit partners like the Nature Conservancy that have stewarded land. And I would say, while that's all very good and the aggregate is a lot of land that's conserved and protected, there hasn't been enough coordination among those various landowners and land stewards. And when we think about the challenges we are facing with habitat loss and the changing climate, we have to do a better job ensuring that those protected lands governed by the different jurisdictions can actually be managed more cohesively to really provide benefits to the ecosystem and to our environment that those properties can provide better when they're managed more cohesively. I also want to say we are increasingly focused on maintaining and protecting our biodiversity in the state. You all know that this year was to be the International Biodiversity Convention, or the Conference of Parties for that convention in China in October. And we in California were getting very excited around updating our biodiversity policy and goals to really meet the global aspiration to do a better job protecting our biodiversity. As I mentioned, we do a very good job, I think, in the United States and in California protecting species on the brink of extinction, but we need to do a lot more to protect our plants and wildlife from being threatened with extinction in the first place. I liken this to healthcare. If your healthcare policy only takes care of those people who show up in the emergency room, you have a flawed healthcare system. In other words, we're always going to do what it takes to avoid the extinction of a species, but we can do so much more to improve the health of our plants and our animals and our ecosystems farther upstream so that they remain healthy. Part of this is really exploring whether we can really work to aspire to this 30 by 30 goal, protecting 30% of our land and water by 2030. This is a goal that many subnational governments and even some national governments are working towards, really reflecting that if we're going to protect nature on Earth, it is likely through greater land conservation than we've been able to achieve. As I mentioned, about 22% of our 40 million hectares is in active protected areas. And so we're actively asking ourselves, how many more hectares of land can we protect in California? And where is it most important to do so for the protection of biodiversity. Likewise, we're also focused on ensuring that all residents in our state actually can access this outdoor space. Our governor, Gavin Newsom, talks about building a California for all. While we're one of the largest economies in the world, we also have significant disparities between the rich and the poor. And one thing in our agency we've realized is that not enough Californians can actually access these wonderful parks and protected areas. And how can we do a better job protecting nature, but then expanding access to our nature? So our remarkably diverse population can actually go experience that biological diversity across our state. So we are advancing an effort we call Outdoors for All, where we're both protecting our nature and expanding protections on our nature, but then ensuring that more Californians, wherever you live, however much money you make, whatever your circumstances, you can actually get out there and enjoy this incredible public and protected space as well. Another initiative that we are focused on that's relevant to the conversation here today is what we call the Cutting the Green Tape Initiative. And the whole notion is, how can we do environmental preservation and environmental restoration more effectively, cost effectively, and efficiently? In California, remarkably, we permit wetland restoration like we would permit a new strip mall. In other words, we have very protective laws that require a lot of review before any significant development is completed. And that's important if you're building a new building or community to understand the environmental impacts. But that same standard is applied to environmental restoration projects. And what it means is there are projects in our state where a full third of the budget is spent on planning and permitting before any of the work is actually done on the ground restoring the environment. We need to change that. And so we essentially call it cutting the green tape. It's cutting sort of the bureaucracy or the red tape as we know it on environmentally beneficial projects. From our perspective, climate change is creating significant stress in our state, whether it's in the form of droughts, flooding, wildfires, extreme heat. And the bias can no longer be the status quo. We need to move quickly and proactively to find ways to conserve more land, restore more nature for the benefit of plants and animals, and frankly, for the benefit of our human communities ourselves. I think coming out of the coronavirus pandemic, where we are likely going to face major economic challenges and may not have as many resources as we once did to invest in new acquisitions, et cetera, a large focus is going to be how to use the money that we have and the resources that we have more effectively to protect and to restore our environment. So I'm looking forward to deepening partnerships, both in California and outside of California. And we're really excited to be participating in this land conservation network across 6 continents. We know that we can learn a whole lot from partners around the world, including you who are here today. We know we have to learn a lot. We have to do more than we've done. While we can take a moment on the 50th anniversary of Earth Day to mark our progress, I think we can also challenge ourselves to do more. I like to say, if not now, when? If not us, who? So now is the moment. Really appreciate an opportunity to join with you here today and share our thoughts from California. If you have the opportunity to be in California, please come find us at the Natural Resources Agency. Likewise, we look forward to interacting with you, quite possibly in Barcelona next year. Best of luck for the rest of the convening here today.
Okay, thank you, Wade, and thank you, Marta, for that. Marta and Sharon, if you could turn on your microphones and your video, then we will, in just a second, take questions and answers. I just want to reiterate, as Wade and Marta told us, we have had a wonderful group of guests today, and it's really been fun for us. But we have a tremendous amount of work ahead of us. work to do connecting Sacramento with Barcelona, as you just saw. Boston with Beijing, Santiago, and Sydney with Cape Town, South Africa. This is really a global enterprise, and we have figured out a way to link ourselves together, and we need to take advantage of that as best we can going forward to try to solve some of these problems. So let's see, if Marta and Sharon could turn on your cameras, please, then we could see you. There we go, there's Sharon. Okay, and I'm gonna put us in a mode where I can see you. Okay, I see you both now. All right, so our first question, actually I will answer this one from Brenda Barrett in Pennsylvania in the United States. Will this session be recorded and made available? The answer is yes, it is being recorded. It will be found on the ILCN website and the ELCN website. We're happy to direct anyone to those websites, and we know that a number of people who are living in places that it's late at night now will come and watch this asynchronously. Now we have time for a couple of questions. The first question, I think let's do Marta first and then Sharon, comes from David Markowitz, who asks, as the global lockdown continues, how do you see environmental agendas progressing as compared to economic ones? Will the world realize how quickly people and governments can coalesce towards a common goal?
Well, I think it's a very interesting question. All of us are asking precisely this. Me, from the government perspective, I am very worried because we are seeing that the cost of this pandemic in each country will be huge, will be tremendous, and that can put in a very serious situation environmental policies. So our goal is not to commit the same mistakes as in the last economic crisis in 2008, where some people told us, okay, now just focus on the economic recovery, and there is no time for environmental policies now because we need to focus on the economic recovery. We have seen that it's been a huge mistake. I think what we didn't do it in Catalonia, or at least not as much. And now I think the situation is completely different. I think that at least in Catalonia, we really believe in a green agenda, in doing things differently. We have seen these days that the quality of air in our cities has improved absolutely. There is nothing that we have seen like this before. The quality of the air, it's amazing. So I think that now people are more ready to take action to improve their behavior, and also for the government, although we will have to pay, of course, the bill of this pandemic because the health resources will need it. I think that we do not have to move from our path for a truly green agenda, a truly circular economy agenda, climate change policies, and biodiversity policies. I hope so.
Thank you. Sharon, do you want to add to that?
Sure, I can build off of I think what the Secretary said really stands true in California. We have been so fortunate not to have our economic and environmental policies decoupled. We truly believe that a healthy economy and a healthy environment are implicitly linked. And so I think as we look to coming out of this pandemic, a lot of the work that's going to be linked to economic stimulus is going to have an environmental element. I mean, whether you look at, in California, tourism is incredibly important, and we have amazing national, state, and regional parks. So having those become, maintain their health and their resiliency is going to be critical for future visitation, whatever that may look like under physical distancing. So I think that from California's perspective, that we're going to seek more and more innovative ways to keep those two aligned. And as we look to restart some of the economic needs that we have within the state, we really strongly emphasize the importance and value of environmental health within that.
Thank you. Thank you very much. I think Chandni, that I have time for probably just one more question, and that if you have additional questions for our panelists, please feel free to write us at the Lincoln Institute. You all have our email addresses because you've all registered for this webinar, and we'll try to make sure that the questions get to the panelists and we get the answers back to you. So for our last question, I have too many to answer. I want you please to address this question from Grazia Morini. I hope I've got your name pronounced right. Last name Feierabend. And the question is, community conserved areas are crucial for conservation in most countries in the world. And I would include in that land protected by nonprofits and individuals who are doing it outside of the state-owned protected lands. Could our colleagues in Catalonia and in California let us know about their efforts with community conserved areas besides and beyond federal, state, and private protected areas? Thank you, and that really goes to the heart of our whole ILCN, ELCN efforts. So brief answers to those questions, please. Sharon, why don't we start with you on this one?
Sure, I agree with the premise of the question that community conserved areas and community support is absolutely critical. We have a significant land trust community in California. We also have a lot of partnerships with working lands and ranchers through our resource conservation districts. I think what we're seeing more and more as this work evolves is the connectivity between those federal, state, regional, and community conserved landscapes, and a recognition of the value and importance of building those partnerships, because working across all those boundaries is what's going to be critical to maintaining the landscapes at the scale that we need to.
Thank you. Marta.
Yes, I think the legislation is very different from the United States and in Europe, the continental law. But as Miquel has established in his remarks, we have this land of this network of conservation organizations in Catalonia that work in community conserved areas. This is a challenge for us as a government because some of them are taking care of very crucial areas of our country. In some cases, very delicate and very fragile areas that are of a very big importance. So for us, it's very necessary to give them support, financial support, and also support for organizing themselves. In fact, another question was asking if there will be some support for the nonprofit sector. And in Catalonia, one of the measures that we have been put in place these days has been a line of help, of support to nonprofit organizations in the environmental field, because we know that they are suffering a lot in this time, because in spring is where when they do all their environmental education activities, and now all of them are completely stopped. So all the support that this kind of community conserved areas can receive from the government is not enough.
Okay, I just want to thank all of the panelists today. This has just been extraordinary as an experience for those of us who organized it. I hope the same is true for all nearly 200 of us who were at this webinar, and another hundreds of people who are going to access it online. So thank you all, and I want to call on Chandni, if she can turn her camera on, to give you a little bit of an overview of the webinars that will be coming up over a number of weeks going forward that help us deepen our experience with regard to land conservation, finance, stewardship, law and policy, governance for the future. So Chandni, if you are there, and I think you are, please take over.
Thank you, Jim, and thank you to everyone for your questions and attention and for joining us virtually here today. And special thanks to Miquel, Marta, Sharon, and Wade for taking the time to share their reflections. As I hope this online plenary has showed, Virtual tools for gathering and communicating offer us an opportunity to keep connected and engaged as we navigate the situations we find ourselves in our respective countries and regions. And to continue to bring together this global community of practice, the ILCN and ELCN are very excited to announce a 2020 webinar series that will kick off next Wednesday, April 29th, and continue throughout coming months. The webinar series will feature speakers and experts who were deeply involved in putting together the great content for the now postponed Global Congress, and will cover the core topics and that usually form the pillars of that Congress: conservation finance, land stewardship and management, organization and governance, law and policy, and large landscape conservation. A full schedule of these webinars is available on the International Land Conservation Network's website, landconservationnetwork.org/webinar series. So now I'd like to ask all of our speakers and the original Global Congress Planning Committee to unmute and share your videos to join together in a celebratory toast on this occasion, the 50th anniversary of Earth Day. So please, wherever you are, grab your mug, grab your glass of wine, grab an appropriate beverage, and join me in thanking everyone here for their commitment and contribution to protecting our planet. And let's look together towards a brighter future. Thanks, everyone, and cheers.
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 So with that, we're now adjourned. Thanks, everyone, for sticking with us as we've gone over time, and take care and enjoy the rest of this Earth Day.